First module that we'll be starting today is discussing on the different domains. So the first question that I would really want to ask is, let's just use a different color. Okay. I'm pretty much sure everyone knows about IAM here. Okay. What are the main three domains of IAM? Yes, you refer to the chat as well. As per your experience, what are the three main different domains of IAM? Subdomains of IAM. IAM, IGA, PAM. Okay. What is the difference between IAM and IGA, Naresh? Again,
Oh,
you can unmute.
thank you.
Yes.
So basically, in
Hmm.
in IAM, you just managing the identity or single sign-on things are, but in
Okay.
IGA, you governance the ID and
Hmm.
the groups and all those things under the IGA.
Okay. So instead of IAM, let's call them as access management.
Yeah, correct. Yeah,
Okay. And then you have
yeah,
privilege access management. So
correct.
absolutely correct. These are the main three domain. So, and I'm just trying to set up like kind of doing a brief warm up for everyone so that everyone can be in the same stage. When we talk about IGA, the first thing that happens here is a user is provisioned, which we call as joiner. Okay. And then, so that means a new hire logs in on day one. All right. A new contractor is enrolled. Okay. Now, when you are a contractor or as a new hire, when you need additional access. So by default, when I talk about new onboarding, what is the first set of application access that you get or first few set of application when you start as a new hire? Again, please use the chat. First few sets of application.
It's social here, so it depends upon the principle of least privilege, so that he can continue his PAU work for the first day.
Okay, so the principle goes back to least privilege. Okay, and is this Debarshi or who answered that? Or
Sushil.
Naresh? Sushil. Okay, okay, Sushil. Based on the principle of least privilege, we give birthright access. Okay, now birthright access includes email. Okay, some of the HR apps, and anyone who's actually not a part of this domain. Let's say you have been working with PAM or you have actually worked on the access management, feel free to ask questions as needed here. Okay, but based on the birthright, there are like office birthright access, HR, then you have some of the learning L&D application. Okay, some payroll application. Okay, so these are some of the access that is given by default, and that concept or that term is called birthright. So whenever an access is born or provision, what is the birthright access that is given? Okay, the minimum level of access that organ that individual needs to start their day, which also goes back to the principle of least privilege. Okay. Now one question here, again not related. Principle of least privilege falls under which main framework? What is the broader framework under which principle of least privilege falls?
Zero trust.
Zero trust. Yes, very good. Okay. Again, not related, but I just wanted to check. So far, this is clear to everyone what is happening for a new user. Yes, just give a thumbs up using the emoji if it is clear so far. Now, as a user, this is where you have got the access. From here, now you really want to request additional access. Okay. Or your access has been elevated because your role has changed. Okay. That process is called mover, meaning your access is moved now from a certain stage one where you were an engineer and now you have become a senior engineer, stage 2. So definitely most of the access has been increased. This is called mover. All right. Now when you decide to resign, you have a lever flow that gets triggered, which deprovisions your access. Deprovisions your access in all the system. And finally, on the last day, all the access has been removed. All right. So this is where your entire IGA focuses on. Joiner, mover, lever, how to give access, how can you request the access, what is segregation of duties, okay, certifications, role-based access control, that all that. So once the access is given, the birthright access, now I have access to email. Okay. Once I have access to this, what will I do immediately? Let's say as a new hire, if you get an email that your uh, email has been provisioned and here is your detail, what would you do next?
We will configure outlooks and all that.
As a part of the configuration, what do you do? What is the first thing that it starts configuring? First thing you do.
Your account is getting created on the
Yeah, we
previous.
check the single sign-on if everything, the apps and login is working,
We
like
log in, right?
Teams. Yeah, Teams and everything.
Yes. So we simply log in to the system. Okay. Now, when we say login, see, it's not very normal that you're logging into Outlook or you're logging into email. That's when application is managing the authentication. Here, there is always a layer, okay, where the user actually logs in. And then you have all the apps here. Here you have the authentication system. What is this authentication system called? This comes under
IDP, identity
identity
provider.
provider, and this falls under access management.
Yeah.
And in the IGA world, you had tools like SailPoint, Savient, One Entity Manager, Symmetries, Luri. Here you have products like Okta, Ping, Entra ID, and all. All right. And the primary reason is first, once the access is set up, now this system is actually facilitating how do you log in. And in this login process, you do a lot of things. You um, set up your password, you set up your MFA, all right? You do integration between these two systems. Multiple things are done, okay? Now, this is primarily for the access management you are managing for humans, non-humans, both, okay? But now, if there are specific monitoring or protection that you want to do for non-human identities specifically, okay? That's where you have the PAM system, privilege access management, anything that is privileged, not just non-human. Even in human, if there are admin accounts, okay, you are monitoring them, recording their session, you're vaulting the credentials, and you're rotating the password. All right, so these are the main 4 things we do within the PAM, specific to non-human and admin credentials, because again, they are really important asset within the organization. All right. We do not do monitoring, we do not do session recording, all of that for human accounts, nor vaulting, nor rotation is manual. Okay. Now, let me talk about SIAM. Again, a brief overview of SIAM. SIAM stands for anyone? What does SIAM stands for? I
Customer
know
identity and
customer
access
identity and
management.
access management. Yes, very good. Now, whatever I was discussing so far, a user, employee, all of that, right? That falls under workforce identity. And most of the time, what we all are doing 90% of the time is managing workforce. Okay, we are only managing workforces. Now, then comes this term of customer. Now, how does this differ between customer and workforce? First of all, tools are the primary thing. Let me just draw this. Okay, IAM versus workforce. Again, this is just setting the initial base, okay, so that we know about the terminologies and what is going to come. Here, different tools are used. Tools are different for both. Okay. Second, use cases are different. Primarily, you focus on security and compliance. Here, user experience is given primary importance. Yes, others are also kept in mind, but you don't go too much stringent. For example, if I'm using a UB key or a physical security key for MFA, all right, or a joiner, mover, lever process, or access request and all of this, where you're doing it primarily from a compliance and security, you cannot implement the same thing on customer. Have you guys done access review in Amazon when you go and do shopping on Amazon? Do you guys do access request reviews? Yes, no? Does Amazon ping you saying, okay, this is your access. You now have a manager assigned for your
No.
role? No,
No, we
right?
don't do that.
No.
Yes.
No.
That's the one of the main difference. Okay. Now imagine Amazon puts multiple controls that you have to log in multiple times, and then you have to do a password reset every 3 months. You now have to start using multiple authenticators. The first thing you will do is you leave the application. All right. So, and when you leave the application, what is the immediate impact? What is the immediate impact when people start leaving the application in the customer world?
Impact, what is it? That what I'm on, but
Revenue?
Yeah, revenue loss
yeah,
or
the revenue and also the
Sales are drop.
Eventually revenue only, right?
yeah.
Whether it is reputation, whether it is business, whatever terms you see, eventually it goes down to revenue loss. And this is one of the main reason why whenever we are dealing or designing flows for customer identity, which we will do, our focus is very much on frictionless logins. All right. So trying to make sure how much of security we can put, keeping experience on the top priority. But the moment you shift your focus in workforce, can you go and tell your organization that you're really tired of too many login flows? Or why are we asked to log in so many times? Can you say that as employees? Yes,
no,
no.
that's not possible.
That's
That's
not
not possible.
possible, right? So by default, the flow is designed keeping, okay, look at the compliance. Compliance has these 5 things, and then keep the security. What is the topmost security, especially for administrators? Implement that. And that's how, that's a main difference between customer and workforce. Okay. Because here you do not have the choice. Yes, there will be a slight productivity loss, but security and compliance is kept primary importance. Productivity loss in this, people have to go through multiple process of taking the credentials and then logging in and all of that. All right. So customer identity and access management is this. Okay.